Have you ever felt?
Are you listening?
I just had to explain it to some 6th and 7th graders. So, I said that it's a system of kind of like competition, but like that competition is for like preferential treatment, benefits. I say authenticity, like trying to prove like how black you are, how black you may not be. Mobility, so trying to maneuver different spaces, using your complexion to be like the tool to get you through different spaces. Several times. I mean, I learned about colorism really, really young without knowing what it was. So, my mom is dark skinned, but both of her sisters are really light skinned. My mom was dark skinned, both of her sisters are light skinned, and so my grandmother kind of, I don't know if she was trying to protect her, trying to make sure she didn't like get disappointed or let down, but she would like let her know like how being dark skinned would affect her, and so she kind of brought that, and our house she never like talked bad about anybody, but I knew like she was dark skinned, and like we had like this a different kind of color system in my house. So like there was brown, red, and then yellow. So yellow would be light skinned, I would be red, my mama would be dark. But then when I went outside of the house, like it would be something different. Like, oh, I'm brown, not red. My mama's dark, and then instead of saying yellow, people say light. Whatever. And so I learned about it really, really early. The best example I can think of was me using colorism. So, you know how like colorism can affect like your dating behaviors or the people that you may be attracted to. So I remember my junior year in high school, I had just got to a new school, and it's like 3 girls that I really, really liked. And I was trying to figure out which one would be my girlfriend. And so I started doing like a pros and cons list. And 2 of them were like my skin complexion, and the other one was really light. And the girl that was light skinned, I ended up disqualifying her for 2 reasons. One, like she cursed a lot, and I was like, she might curse in front of my mama. And one of the other ones did too. But I also because she was light skinned, I was like, I don't know how my mama is gonna react. I thought she was gonna say nothing too bad, but I could imagine her taking note of the fact that she was light skinned. And so I didn't want to seem color struck. And so yeah, I was like, that can't be my girlfriend. And so I ended up choosing one of the other girls instead of her, even though like we had a lot of chemistry. Another one was in college. When I was taking all these AAAS classes, and I was like becoming like one with like my racial identity, or like at least trying to. And so you know, like you have like a little stage where you reject everything that's not like your idea of what black is supposed to be. And so I had a girlfriend who was really, really light, and I had this idea that I wanted to like kind of promote dark skin. So I wrote this poem called "That Chocolate," and in my mind, it was just me promoting dark skin, you know, and giving it like positive attention instead of like negative stuff. But it didn't cross my mind that like even when you doing that, you still isolating like another group when you trying to promote another. And so the girlfriend I had, she was really uncomfortable with me writing that poem and then performing it, because it was like, I'm light skinned, like you gonna perform it in front of all these people and they gonna look at me like, what's going on? And it did happen. Like the MC for like the poetry show that I did, he knew my girlfriend, so he was like, man, your girlfriend light skinned. He was like, how you gonna write a poem called That Chocolate? But it was definitely interesting. Very much so. But I will say, women are just as color struck as men, but I think women are more cognizant of why for whatever like gender issues, whatever beauty phenomena that I play, and they are willing to acknowledge it like openly. So and they understand why they do it. Just from my experience, I can't speak for everybody, but from my experience, my male friends, like they colorists as can be, you know what I'm saying? Like they definitely are color struck, but they don't understand why that could be wrong. Like they cloak it under preference, like that's just my preference, without ever like problematizing why that's your preference. Whereas the women that have been around me, they may have a preference, but they don't just lean on that. Like they have an explanation behind it or something. So it's equal, but one is more aware than the other.
Where it goes, heartthrob never, black and ugly as ever.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yeah, I remixed that one time.
See, that's awesome because I've interviewed other people and like none of them have ever heard that line. They probably heard the song, but they just don't remember that.
I know Biggie.
So can you tell me like how you take that line, or even in the context of the song, or just in the context of society, and how would you interpret that, or what would you glean from that one lyric?
Yeah, so you know how like if you like watch like movies from like early 2000s or the 90s, they kind of have these little lines where they say, oh, light skinned dudes is winning right now, or dark skinned dudes coming back, that kind of thing. So I think like when that line came out, that was like a time where you had like all these R&B dudes that was out there. They tended to be light skinned, or they had like a certain like hair texture and skin like are really connected. And so the idea of a heartthrob would be that, you know what I'm saying? You had a few guys that were dark skinned, they were still like heartthrobs, but I think it was like it's a different energy, like it's a different I don't want to say like affect or different level of affection, but it was different. And so he had an idea of where a heartthrob was, and it's like, I'm not that, you know, but I still do me. I still get this, and this is why I get that, you know. And so I think that's where he was kind of getting at. You asked me like what does that have to do like in context of like society? Mm-hmm. We all kind of have like this. I won't say all. I can only speak for us, but there's kind of like this checklist. I read about this. It's like a sufficient checklist for like masculinity or whatever. And so it's different things that aid to you being seen as masculine. So it could be, I don't know, it could be like the amount of money you have, athleticism, just like respectability, I guess, and your ability to attract women. So all of that stuff got these different tiers and they different sets of different values or whatever. And so by him saying heartthrob never, so it's like I may not be like the most attractive, so I don't have like this, I don't check the attractive box, but I wear this, you know what I'm saying, I get this, I have money, I can do this, so it's like I have these other things that I can check off. And so that would lead me to be able to attract the opposite sex more than you can, like based off of, you know, you being a heartthrob. And so I don't know if everybody think about it, but we all kind of have like that little check, like we trying to figure out like what makes us eligible. Yeah. And so you try to find other stuff that would be sufficient enough, but that also kind of hints at like you being light skinned kind of gives you like a leg up kind of thing. So it's like I may not be that, but I can do this, and this. You know, complicated stuff. I don't know if like men think it doesn't affect them as much or what. Like I was saying before, like they just kind of not cognizant of the effects. Like I've literally, I won't say no names, so I'll just say one of my friends. he just would always say like, man, like I just really need a red, I'm gonna say woman. He was like, I just really need a red woman. And I remember like, man, come on, like she gotta be red. And he was like, man, I don't know, it's just something about him. Like I just need like a red woman. And I mean, I just really didn't feel like breaking that down, you know what I'm saying? Because we've had so many arguments about a bunch of stuff. And I just really didn't feel like it. We was on our way to the club, so I was like, I ain't really trying to I ain't really trying to get into that before we go in the club, you know what I'm saying? So I just left it alone. But I think we tend to, we're just not aware of it, or we think it doesn't affect us as much. But then you have like the stereotypes and stigmas around like light-skinned dudes, dark-skinned dudes, like light-skinned dudes being weaker or more emotional versus dark-skinned dudes are supposed to be tougher and all this kind of stuff. I remember when the Warriors won that first championship, or was it the second one? I don't remember which one, but it had to have been the second one. But when like in the Western Conference Finals, the Thunder were playing against the Warriors, and a lot of my friends, like, they were going for Russell Westbrook instead of Steph Curry because, like, literally, like, man, Russell Westbrook a nigga, man, that's a nigga. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, what does that have to do with basketball, you know? So some of them never played basketball before, some of us have, so, you know, like, we arguing about skill, and then literally one of them was like, man, Steph Curry light-skinned ass, man, he ain't about nothing. And I'm just like, man, it's going, like, it's always in my mind. And I remember wanting to write about it. I did write about it, and I was trying to get it, like, published. But the day I submitted at, like, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, Mike Eric Dyson had then submitted it already. And so, like, he got published, and then mine got rejected, and I was like, damn. Because I just thought, like, this was, like, a monumental thing. Like, this is the perfect way to expose, like, colorism, like, the way it penetrates, like, all kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I ended up not being able to to run with that. But that was just, like, a prime example. And it was, like, I couldn't get them to wrap their mind around, like, man, you can't judge basketball skill or acumen based off of like somebody's like skin color, or even they was really getting at his toughness. It was like, I mean, you can't judge that either based off of that. I had a student, when was this, Tuesday or Thursday, and you know, I do like to work with the emojis and stuff, and so I had like the different color swatches up there. I have like a group of boys and I have a group of girls. Only one of the girls like pointed to like the darkest emoji, and like when she did it like, it was funny because like she tapped the TV screen almost kind of like moved or whatever, so we kind of laughed about it. But she did it with so much emphasis that like I took note to it. It was like she did that for a reason, and like she was the only one that did it out of both groups. One of the boys, like, he wasn't the darkest one, but he was one of the darkest ones. And he wouldn't pick the darkest emoji. So I asked him, like, I called him out, like, you know, why won't you pick that one? And he was like, man, because, like, that's black. And I was like, you black? I was like, I think that's close to your color. And he was like, man, nah, I ain't that black. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? You know, I'm not shocked that he's saying this, you know, but the level of comfort that he was saying it was interesting. And so I'm like, you know, what does that mean, like, that black? It's like black, like, that's black. And I'm like, you're not answering, you know, what does that mean? And he could never answer. And so, you know, I tried to give them, like, the little spiel, like, you know, you can never be too black. Black isn't something to be afraid of, or something that you don't want to be, all this kind of stuff. So I'm pulling out all kind of stuff, but I don't know. It's like we just don't think about like how it's on our mind like that. Okay, so You want to know how it started, or
Whatever you got.
Well, it started when Apple, like, they released these emojis, but they were all white, basically. Like, they had two emojis that could be seen as people of color, but nah. It was a lot of black people were mad, like, man, like, we getting looked over again. And so I was like just scrolling through like my Play Store, Google Play Store, whatever, after a conversation with a woman I was dating at the time. We was kind of talking about emojis a little bit. She was saying, like, you know, this should be something that you look into, just because, like, I have like a graphic design background and getting into sociology, so this would be a perfect way to mesh them together. And while I own like the Play Store, I saw an app called Black Emoji, and so I go to it, and I like to read comments. I don't know why I torture myself like that, but I was reading through the comments, and like both black and white people were saying that the app was stereotypical or racist. So it was like mixed reviews. Some people really liked it, and some said it was stereotypical or racist. And I was kind of like, man, like this, how? I was like, we just had it where we had no representation at all. We had this app where it's only us, like it's only black characters on it. And for some reason, like there's still a disconnect. Like, where's that coming from? And so I started the project like trying to explore that. And then Apple comes out with like these other color swatches. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, this is it's cool. But I'm like, you know, the features are still really white. And
The hair,
I ain't want to go there, but yeah, the hair. And then it's a minimal amount of like skin tones. And so it's like you really are forced to choose. And so that just added like a whole new aspect to my research, and so I wanted to look at that. And that's where like colorism and racial identity comes up a lot in the study. I make people select which emoji is, like how I do with the kids. Like I make them select which one they use the most, which one represents their skin complexion, and it just depends on the person. Sometimes they can easily say, "Oh, this is me." The other times they express like, you know, I have to settle. Like it's not, neither one of these really represent me, but I just pick one. Yeah, so I'm just exploring like all that stuff. I've always been interested in hair and skin color for a while. It's like race is so convoluted in itself, even though it's like made up. But like color is a whole nother thing. And I just always been interested in it just because of like how my house was, and just like how it affected the people I dated, or the way it kind of forced me to try and look at other things. And yeah, I've created pieces, like visual pieces, like trying to get people to explore like their own sense of color and how they think color represents them, how they fit within like this realm of color, all kind of stuff. One thing I've been pushing a lot, like with my own research or just in conversations with people, is I kind of hinted at it before, but getting people to understand like the system of colorism is, it's not like one-sided. Like it affects, like if we're gonna use a binary, it affects both sides. A lot of times we tend to think that like it only benefits light-skinned people, and then dark-skinned people gotta like scramble to like try and keep up. But it affects both sides. So like when I used the word authenticity earlier, I think, so like one of the, I guess, pros of colorism for dark-skinned people is that you never have to defend your authenticity like how a light-skinned person would. You would have to, your actions would have to make you inauthentic, whether instead of like your actual features. whereas like light-skinned people have to defend that they black, or they have to be strategic in how they present their blackness. So it goes, and that's just like one example. It goes both ways. As long as we keep trying to compete with each other, trying to see who got it worse, we're gonna always be split, and we're always be in competition with each other, which kind of defeats the purpose of us trying to form like some solidarity with each other. And I mean, I know solidarity is complicated, but it's needed. So you gotta figure out a way to get past little silly stuff like that. But yeah.